Well, Dr. Michael Klaper, thank you for taking the time here on Guilt-Free TV. It really means a lot to me and the audience. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you. Great name, by the way, Guilt-Free TV. Yes, that's so hopeful. That implies so much good things. So it's good to be with you.
It
That's
does. It does. Now, you're one of the leaders in the plant-based movement, but can you give a brief background of yourself out there for those seeing you for the very first time?
Sure. I'm a Western trained physician, graduated at the University of Illinois College of Medicine in the early 70s. For the first 10 years of my career, I was practicing blood and guts, emergency room, and urgent care kind of medicine. But for the past 35 years, I've been working in the field of applied nutrition because it's obvious now that the majority of people sitting in waiting rooms across the country, excuse me, waiting to see their doctor, are there because they're sick from what they're eating. And the cardiologist sees the clogged arteries, and the internist sees the high blood pressure, and the dermatologist sees the psoriasis, and the rheumatologist sees a sore joint, and the gastroenterologist sees the colitis, and the psychiatrist sees the depression.
Right.
They're all looking at the same disease. It's what their patients are eating. The Western diet's gotten so toxic with the cooked animal protein and the dairy and the oils and the sugars, and it causes all these diseases. And clean up the diet, and these diseases go away. So
yeah, well, you have a pretty incredible track record. It doesn't take a lot of digging to find all the great stuff you've done. Now, we both recently participated in the same event over at UC Davis, which was to help an educated group of fraternity guys. Those fraternity guys that were challenged to go vegan for a week. I spoke on vegan bodybuilding and protein myths.
Thank you for doing that. That's so important, especially to that audience.
Yeah, and it was a fun time. And when I saw that you were going to be there, I was like, yes, they need to hear this man.
So they Skyped me in. I didn't appear. I appeared electronically there, and gave them a nice. They had just seen What the Health, and so I showed up for Q&A afterwards.
Perfect.
And good for them. Good for you.
I know. Yeah, it was fun.
But how brave of them. And
oh yeah,
and a lot of seeds got planted, no doubt. So
That's right. That's right.
That's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, well, one of the reasons I connect with you and your message so much is the way that you explain complex things in such a simple manner that it makes information so easy to understand. You're also really passionate and emotional about the healing properties of a plant-based diet, and it really hits home for me, which is why I was so eager to share you with the audience. And the fact that you're emotionally involved with your clients and their progress is really special. I mean, you truly love your work, and it's obvious. So I'm gonna start with a broader question here. With all the advances in medicine and the ability to straighten out sickness with antibiotics or prolong or save life with medication or surgery, how important is diet in all of this, based on your decades of experience?
Oh my! Well, that is such a profound and powerful question, and one could spend hours exploring it. But I'm a big fan of Western medicine, and no question, if someone's got a bad pneumonia, I'm going to give them intravenous antibiotics.
Right.
And if I get in a motor vehicle accident, get me the best high-tech orthopedic surgeon you could find to fix me up.
Yep.
And so it certainly has a place for acute medicine, and it's done a lot of wonderful things, hip replacements and cataract surgeries. They're godsends. That said, the majority of people suffering from the common Western diseases, the obesity, the clogged arteries, the high blood pressure, the diabetes, and all the inflammatory conditions of joints and skin, etc. Western science says, oh, etiology unknown. We don't know what causes these diseases, but it's becoming obvious. As I said earlier, the Western diet has become so toxic that as every meal after meal, bacon and eggs for breakfast, cheeseburgers for lunch, chicken for dinner, even wild-caught salmon, all these fatty, oxidized animal proteins and dairy proteins and hydrogenated oils and refined sugars. The whole brew has become so toxic that the body malfunctions. And we now know that food brings in not only nutrients, but it brings in information in this digital age. We now understand that every mouthful that you take, within 20 minutes, molecules of that food are flowing through every cell in your body, where your DNA lies unfolded, and the molecules from your food wash through your cells, and they play your DNA like a piano.
Mm.
It turns genes on and it turns genes off. It turns enzymes on, turns enzymes off. Every meal changes us on a genetic, molecular level. The science is called nutrigenomics, and it's how our food turns our genes on and off.
Wow.
And Hippocrates was right on a level he couldn't have begun to understand, but let food be your medicine. I'll say,
Yeah.
diseases, many of them are induced by how our food changes us on a very profound chemical and biological level.
Well,
So food has also the power to heal, and that's where we tend to focus the good energy here. Yes, you're going to say?
yeah, well, I think that explains some of the really rapid healing processes of a plant-based diet, because I had my own issues, skin disorders, digestive disorders, and things. When I hit my 40s, I said, I don't want to have anymore. I need to find the solution. And when I went on a plant-based diet, I mean, I was 2 weeks, I was like, it's a miracle. The food immediately starts to do its work. The plants immediately start to do their work. And it's so incredible that through that first year, how I just saw symptom after symptom just disappear and disappear and disappear. And it just keeps getting better and better. I mean, obviously I had to study and relearn how to eat again, because I was waking up with 6 eggs, and then with some toast, and then going on to turkey, going on to, meal after meal. But I had to relearn how to eat again. And once I did that, which is really important for me because I have a family and 2 small boys, and we're all plant-based. But the impact was so quick. And my folks who went plant-based at their 70s and went off of medication within a year, I was like, okay, hallelujah. There's no arguing this anymore. So moving on, I love the way that you talk about dairy. And I love the way that you convey that information. Can you talk about why dairy is such a poor choice for humans when looking for nutrients such as calcium and protein?
Oh, it really is. I did much of my growing up on my uncle's dairy farm in northern Wisconsin. I've been
Yeah.
milking cows since I was 8. And I thought it was a natural food that we should all be consuming. And if you listen to the dairy industry, they say, yep, it's a natural food we should all be consuming, the milk of cows and products made from them.
Right.
But when you think about it, it's a fundamentally irrational thing to do on every level. No other animal. You don't see gorillas nursing off gazelles. It doesn't. It's a totally unnatural act. But on a biological, medical level, there's a lot of things in cow's milk that you really don't want to be taking into your body,
Okay.
and especially in view of the fact that you can get the particular nutrients, namely protein and calcium, from plants that grow out of the ground. That is, after all, where the cows get their protein and calcium. It all comes from the plants. But seriously, today's modern dairy cows have been genetically modified. On my uncle's dairy farm in the 50s, when you impregnated the cow, she would stop giving milk. She would dry up until she had her next calf. But in a modern dairy installation where they're milking 1,000, 1,500 cows a day, they can't have their best milkers go offline for months at a time. So they've genetically modified the cows so they will give milk all the way through their next pregnancy. Even though they're pregnant with their next calf, they're still sucking milk off these animals. And the estrogen content in any pregnant female mammal, her body is coursing with estrogens. Well, of course it gets into the milk. And so today's modern milk and cheese and ice cream and yogurt is made largely from the milk of pregnant cows. The estrogen content of this is worrisome. You look at all the little girls going through puberty at age 8 and 9 and 10. You wonder, could it have something to do with this river of milk and cheese and ice cream and yogurt we're telling them to pour down their throats, filled with these active mammalian estrogens? These are not the puny little phytoestrogens in soy. These are official estrone, estradiol, estriol, pregnadiol, progesterone. These are official mammalian estrogens in this cow's milk. And so that's worrisome. If you're a woman with a little early breast cancer, you're consuming this white liquid filled with growth factors. I mean, after all, that's what it's really for. It's to make that little calf grow into a great big cow as rapidly as possible.
Right.
And that's fine if you're a baby calf. But if you're a woman with a breast cancer or a man with a prostate cancer and you're consuming this substance filled with growth factors, it's like pouring gasoline on a fire.
Yeah, there are women out in the world right now with breast cancer or in rehabilitation, still eating cheese and staying away from soy.
That's stunning. Don't let science get in the way of a good fearful story. But the truth is that the soy is protective against breast cancer. The phytoestrogens, which are molecules that are just vaguely shaped like actual mammalian estrogen, when we consume them, they block the receptor sites that the real estrogen would be trying to get into that would drive cancer growth. The women who in the countries that consume soy products have lower breast cancer rates. And there's now studies showing that women with breast cancer who consume soy live longer and do better than the ones who don't consume the soy.
Wow.
And this whole thing has been a scare campaign from the dairy and the meat folks there. Oh, don't eat soy, it's got phytoestrogen. The truth is they're benign and actually protective.
Health promoting.
No one's saying eat 2 pounds of tofu and drink 6 quarts of soy milk a day.
Right.
But all the anxiety that's been ginned up around the phytoestrogens really is unwarranted.
I'm really glad you brought that up, and especially also about the hormones that are raging inside of a pregnant cow when she's giving milk. I was in Costco the other day, and I saw this big stack of protein drinks. And right in the corner, there was a nice green little label with a nice cow on there that said, no artificial hormones used to produce. And I went, oh my gosh, what a tactic. I mean, I instantly caught that, but the general population will look at that and go, great, there's no hormones in my protein. Right. You know,
very important. The distinction for your viewers might not, pick that up there. They're saying no hormones used in the production of this milk. So they didn't inject the cows with bovine growth hormone BGH to make her give even more milk. They didn't do that straight, but there was no need. Her body is so full of estrogens that you don't need to use any hormones. There's plenty of them in the milk already. Thank you very much.
Right. So you can see the tactics right there on the label.
Sure.
What are some good sources of calcium and good plant sources, calcium and protein that you like to recommend instead of milk?
Right. Well, when you think about it, again, cows are getting the calcium from the green plants they eat. The calcium is in the soil, and the green plants take up the calcium, and that's why we should be consuming big portions of dark green leafy vegetables. It really is important, folks. If you're going to do one thing to improve your diet, increase the amount of greens you eat. Don't go to bed at night so you can look back over your eating day and, oh yeah, I had a big helping of kale at lunch, or oh, a big helping of broccoli at dinner. Once a day, you want a big gazunta helping of something dark and green. It really is important. Right. And twice a day is even better. Big salad, romaine lettuce. So dark and green is really important. Seeds have it. Sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds, tahini dressing.
Tahini,
like
love that.
So that's a nice way to get it in. The multivitamin that I take, everything is very toned down, but it's got 200 milligrams of calcium. I take a little pinch. Do not be taking 1,000 milligrams, 1,500 milligrams of calcium here for any reason. But glad if someone wants to take a glass of calcium fortified orange juice, that'd be okay too. It's around. But basically, it's in the greens. Eat lots of green stuff and use your bones. Go have a good walk every day. Go to the gym, work out. Let your bones know you love them. Work out those osteoblasts so they'll spin out lots of bone matrix and keep those bones nice and strong. Osteoporosis is not a disease of calcium deficiency. It's basically disuse atrophy of the bones. It's from a sedentary lifestyle, sitting in front of the computer, drinking stuff that makes your bones disappear.
Yeah, we'll get into that because I was going to ask that a couple questions from now, so we can just get into it right away.
Sure.
What's the connection between dairy and osteoporosis, and that people think that milk is going to save their bones? Yeah,
there's no question that there's no connection. That's a double negative. But seriously, the dairy industry has been expert. They've been artistic in making that association in people's heads. Well, bones are white, chalk is white, chalk has calcium, bones have calcium. Milk is white, milk has calcium. Therefore, the white milk goes into your white bones to make strong bones so you don't get osteoporosis. And they made that connection. why let some good science get in the way of this lovely fairy tale they spun out? But when you really look, you go around the world, see the people who consume the most milk. Whoa, they must have the strongest bones, right? Wrong.
Wrong.
When you look in the Norwegian countries, etc., they consume more milk than anyone. Their fracture rate is just as bad as ours. And in the nurses' health study, the women who consume the most milk had the most bone fractures, and they died earlier from breast cancer, etc. There's nothing magic in the milk of a cow any more than there is in the milk of a giraffe. Osteoporosis is not a calcium deficiency. It's not what the disease is. I invite your viewers to go to my website, drklaper.com, doctorklaper.com.
Yeah, I'll link that down in the description.
Thank you. Hopefully it's all linked. And you'll, under webinars, you'll see healthy bones. And if you watch my Healthy Bones video, you'll see that the cells that we need in our bones to keep our bones strong, the osteoblasts that spin out new bone, the thing that makes them spin out new bone is asking them, just like the muscles, to do something. Here's a bodybuilder, he knows the more you use your muscles, the more they hypertrophy and respond. Well, your bones respond the same way. The more you use your bones, the more the osteoblasts spin out bone matrix, bones get strong.
Right.
But if you stop using your bones, if you're spending 8 hours a day in front of a computer, drinking coffee or soft drinks, and never exercising, never get out in the sun, never carrying any weights, never doing anything physical, just like your muscles will atrophy, they'll turn into guacamole, your bones will atrophy as well. They will turn into styrofoam. And that's what osteoporosis is. The osteoclasts in there eat up the bone matrix. The osteoporosis is largely disuse atrophy of the bones. It's not a calcium deficiency. And taking calcium tablets is not to magically make bones matrix appear anymore than a bodybuilder can eat a big steak and then say, oh, are my muscles bigger now? I ate somebody's muscle.
Good point.
It doesn't work like that. You got to go use those muscles and they get bigger. You got to use your bones. Take a walk every day. Maybe get a little weighted vest. Take a little 5-pound hand weight in each hand. Right. You do that for a half hour every day, and you watch those bones get stronger. That bone density go up for the right reason, not by taking pills or supplements, whatever. So now you can see drinking the milk of a cow is not going to make new bone matrix appear in your bones. That's not what the disease is, and people shouldn't be seduced by that advertising gimmick.
Okay. Well, what about type 2 diabetes or adult onset diabetes? Is there any correlation between dairy and diabetes, or is it mostly the animal protein and animal fat?
Well, we're getting into fairly subtle biochemistry, but in the end, as well as human nature, we can drill down on the various components of the dairy products as far as individual protein probably doesn't play a big role in type 2 diabetes. The fats might, and the ice cream and the cheese may well clog up insulin receptors and make the person more insulin resistant.
Okay.
No question that will would increase glucose levels. But just tying into human nature, if they're dairy eaters, then that often translates as sitting on the couch with a bowl full of nachos or a round of Gouda cheese and eating a lot of fatty stuff along with a bunch of junky sugars. Then the person's going to wind up obese. And now once you're obese, that certainly does set you up for diabetes. There's a number of ways that fat tissue on the abdomen makes one diabetic. So it's a kind of a three-way bank shot. But yes, the dairy products certainly can contribute to diabetes.
Yeah, it was kind of like what you were mentioning earlier about the cocktail of things in all together. So if you have ice cream, you've got a lot of stuff in there. You've got saturated animal fat, you've got tons of sugar, you've got artificial ingredients, you have all these things contributing to basically obesity and sickness. So
absolutely,
all kinds of stuff could come out of that. So I'm a father of 2 young, beautiful plant-based boys, and we wouldn't dream of giving them cow's milk or products made with cow's milk. What do parents need to know out there that are still feeding their kids cow's milk and ice cream and cheese and yogurts and cottage cheese and and so forth?
Well, first of all, I commend anyone who's taken on parenthood in a responsible manner, and that's a brave thing to do, literally, to set off your course of your life to to have little ones and nurture them and protect them, that's a brave move. Well, what else is now being asked, to calling upon your bravery, is to step out of the idea that growing children need milk, they need their cheese and ice cream, they need them for their bones. Yeah, it takes some bravery to step through that and say, well, wait a minute. The majority of children growing up around planet Earth are not consuming milk, cheese, ice cream, yogurt. There is no refrigeration out in the Sahara or whatever, and yet they grow up big and strong. Humans, as I said, have no more need really for the milk of a cow than they need the milk of a giraffe. You can, the children should be human breastfed or some artificial formula. We can get into that if you want, till age 6 months. And once they start chewing on the nipple and it's obvious that it's time for solid food, then you start introducing the applesauces and then blended squash. And then you move into the more protein-dense bean spreads and nut butters, etc. And you get these kids on solid food. You can and they'll get all the protein they need. There's lovely now vegan infant formulas they're not dairy based.
Nice.
Easy to get them through those first couple of years, and then they're just eating regular food, and they grow up big and strong and tall. I have enough gray hair as my beard to test. I've now seen 3 generations of vegan children. I delivered a whole bunch of them myself. Grow up into these tall, strong, healthy, lovely people. Even though their parents are told that baby's going to be, scrawny and growth deficient. The truth is, plants work very well to raise Homo sapien children into Homo sapien adults, and people can relax on this. So. To tell them, and there's so many good things. You pull the dairy out, watch their nose stop running, watch their asthma get better, watch their skin clear up, and you realize what was in that stuff. There was really nothing that you need, and plenty that that they'll do well without. Just Google raising vegan children, and you'll be taken to all sorts of good websites, the Vegetarian Resource Group and the PCRM. There's lots of good sources. Just raising vegan children, you'll see how to do it. But be brave, but do it. It'll really help your kids in a lot of ways.
Great points. I can attest to that. With my 2 young kids, my youngest child went plant-based at 2 years old, and my older one at 5. And I have to say, I was skeptical, because I came from the fitness industry, which in my opinion is a sister industry to the animal agriculture industry, or the animal product industry. And, we learn animal protein, animal protein, animal protein. So, my children, I was skeptical. So I wasn't the gung-ho vegan of everybody's wrong and I'm right. I was like, I really hope this is okay. Yeah. I was nervous at first. And what I noticed was that my children that were getting ear infections regularly, they were getting fevers and flu regularly. They were getting sick every 2 weeks. They would have a week off and they would get sick. Then they'd have a week off and they would get sick. And I'm like, what's wrong with our children? And as soon as we took away these products, we didn't just take away the dairy first, we took away everything. They stopped getting sick. They stopped getting sick. And every time I had proof, I said, I'm a believer, more and more and more. And then my parents went off, and then my bodybuilding endeavors, are flourishing because the inflammation went away, and my illness went away, and my ability to recover was faster. So all of these things happened to my kids, to myself, to my wife, to my parents, to the thousands of people that I've now helped through this channel. And I say, okay, I was the skeptic gone believer.
Good for you.
The most important for my children, I have to make sure. And my wife's like, what are you worried about? They're the healthiest kids I know. And they're growing wonderfully. And the doctor says their growth rates are incredible. And my older son is a gymnast with shoulders and abs, and he's muscular and ripped. And I'm like, okay, this is great. Because it's just my conditioning, that's sitting here. And I know a lot of people can relate to that, because I am spreading the plant-based vegan message around the world right now. But at the same time, I still have my fears as a parent.
Sure.
And having wonderful, credible sources like you on here is not just helpful for the audience, it's helpful for me. So thank you.
Oh, well, good. Oh, yeah. Jeff, that's such a wonderful testimonial you gave. And that's going to help so many people can gain confidence that this is an absolutely reasonable thing to do. And now you know why I'm the happiest doctor I know, because my patients get healthier, doctor. You know, you see it in your patients too. You're
That's
really
wonderful.
helping lots of folks. It's really
And
great.
there should be a system in place where you get paid if your clients do not come to you anymore.
Yeah, indeed. I
I
tell
think
my patients, I want to see you in two places and two places only. I want to see you in the health food store buying produce and on the bike path. That's the only place I want to
that's
see
right.
you.
And you should be getting paid when you do not see anyone.
Absolutely. I agree.
I
Man.
think there was a system like that in Asia at one
There
point.
was, yes. You pay the doctor while you're healthy and you stop paying him when you get sick.
Wow.
And
If only that
motivates
was
the
here.
doctor to keep you healthy. Yeah,
That's
that's a
right.
crazy idea.
So for those out there that don't know and think that milk is cruelty free because the cow isn't being killed, can you shed some light on the process of what I like to call from udder to butter, or
Oh.
basically what has to happen for a person to get to drink that cup of milk or have that bowl of ice cream or yogurt?
Oh, thank you, Jeff. We've become so disconnected from where our food comes from that people with the dairy industry advertising, when they think of where does my cheese and milk come from, they think of the happy dairy cow in the barn happily giving milk, like it's a natural thing to do. No, it's not. There's only one reason that big mammal is in that barn giving milk. Like every other mammal, she just had a baby. In order to keep that milk flowing, you've got to keep making that cow pregnant. And so the cow from the age when she's as soon as she's able to reproduce, they lock her in a stanchion. It's a very invasive procedure, though. The breeder comes, puts a big rubber gauntlet up onto his arm there and shoves his arm right up her rectum, all the way up into his shoulder, grabs through the rectal wall, grabs her cervix, the opening of her uterus, and then with his other hand takes this big long tube of bull semen, slides it into her vagina, up into the cervix, gets in there, squeezes the bull, the squirt of bull semen comes out. Takes out his arms and hands, and she conceives. Now she's pregnant. She carries a calf for 9 months, just like a human mother does. She gives birth to that calf, a 65-pound baby. Can you imagine?
Wow.
It's a painful thing to watch, I'll tell you. And they love that little calf there, and they want to nurse the baby calf. The bond between a mother cow and her calf is really, really strong. But to the farmer, to my uncle, that newborn calf is the enemy. It's sucking up my uncle's profits. He wants that milk to send off to the dairy. And so within no more than 48 hours, often just within 24 hours, that baby calf is taken away from the mother, put into a pen, usually in the same barn. And I squat down and put on the milkers and start milking the cow to take that milk. The most painful auditory memories I hold in my head are the sounds of a mother cow locked up in that stanchion, her newborn calf 10 yards away in the veal pen, and she bellows hour after hour, the most heart-rending, soul-tearing cries. Her baby's right here, and she can't get to it. And this goes on day and night, day after day, 3, 4, 5, 6 days, these bellows are coming from the barn. It's the saddest, most poignant sound you can imagine. And this is, there's no getting around this. You want milk, you got to take calves away from their mothers. Now, what happens to the calves? If it is a female calf, it goes into the dairy herd, becomes a 4-legged milk pump like her mother. And if it's a boy calf, they never give milk. So they're kept for 16 weeks in a pen, chained by the neck so they don't walk around and make their muscles strong. Till finally, after 4 months, they're hung up by their heels, have their throat cut, and they're sold for milk-fed veal. And so the veal industry is an absolutely essential spin-off of the dairy industry. It's what happens to the male calves, and people need to know about that. So it's inevitable, the blood of the veal calves, but also the mother cows. No dairy cow dies of old age. After 4 or 5 years of pumping out calves and milk, their milk production goes down. The computer scale that they're standing on in the dairy barn picks up immediately that their milk production going down. They call the slaughterhouse truck. They come and take the cow to the slaughterhouse, shoot her in the head, hang her up, strip the flesh off their bones. And because the milk of dairy cows is not very appetizing in the meat case, they grind it up into ground beef and they sell it to the fast food industry for hamburgers. And when you go in and order your Big Mac or your Whopper, what you're really eating is ground up old dairy cows. And for people to think that, well, you don't have to kill the cow, don't kid yourself. The dairy barn is a short stopping off place on the way to the slaughterhouse so they can get a few years of calves and milk off this cow before they turn her into a hamburger. It's a slaughter industry. There's no question. They have no illusion about white and happy cows. No, there are no happy cows. They all know what's happening.
Yeah, there's no such thing as cruelty-free milk.
Absolutely. It's inherent in the product.
Wow. Well, thank you for that explanation. That was very detailed and enlightening. So you have a wide variety of videos and DVDs on your website, such as Salt, Sugar, and Oil, the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. I have a really cool experience with, I mean, I've had some battles with sugar and oil. I took oil out a couple of years ago and my skin cleared up. I took sugar out just as an experiment and my skin suddenly got shiny and clear. And I was like, what is happening with the sugar here? I mean, because we tend to blame all the animal products on the problems and they cause a lot of issues, don't get me wrong. But sugar and added oil are pretty pro-inflammatory. It can cause some serious issues. So, I've removed that. So the good and bad and the ugly of salt, sugar, and oil, I think is a good thing to watch. Digestion Made Easy, Sense and Nonsense in Nutrition, which is a great myth-busting resource. And one that I'm particularly interested in watching now, and that is Understanding Your Blood Test Results. Because we get these results and we see, oh, my levels are here and here, and we have no idea what all that, any of that means.
Right.
It's right down the middle, so I guess I'm great, and all that stuff.
Not necessarily.
Right. We don't know what low means and high means and if we're off, anyway. So I think I'm really going to be checking that one out. A great resource. So I've subscribed to your newsletter and it would be great for others to know how to get information from you and where to follow your work. So what do you tell people?
Oh, well, thank you. Oh, yes, I really appreciate the description of resources available on my website. I invite all to come. And on every page, you're going to see a little red badge there. Click on to subscribe to my newsletter called Medicine Capsule. While I was doing general practice at True North in Santa Rosa, I didn't have time to grind out many editions, but now I have more time for myself. So I hope to do at least a monthly newsletter on everything from the latest in nutritional ideas as far as the frontier of optimal nutrition goes, to people who give me hope and what's happening in this world and how we can each make a difference. So it's a pretty upbeat newsletter, and it's free, of course. So awesome. Do on every page you can subscribe to Medicine Capsule.
Great.
And
everything.
Invite everybody to do so.
Yeah, everything will be linked down in the description for easy access. So,
Yay.
Dr. Michael Klaper, thank you once again for sharing your time with us. It is truly precious.
Oh, and thank you, sir. The word doctor comes from the same root as doctrine, as teachers, and our highest role is of a teacher. And you really let me play that high role. And you, doctor, are a doctor of health and personal experience teaching, and that's an honorable role as well. So thank you. It's great working with you, and wish you all the best, and to your viewers as well.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Dr. Klaper.
Okay. Your kids are going to be biologically different creatures. When we're talking about the food that turn genes on, turn genes off, at this young age, plant-based meal after plant-based meal, week after week, month after month, year after year, will turn on a set of genes in them that will make them more resistant to diseases and just healthier. They're going to be biologically different creatures, biochemically different creatures.
Wow.
And they're going to they won't develop the big prostates and the colon polyps and the high blood pressure and all that stuff. You haven't primed them for that. So it's a gift beyond measure here, and you should feel very confident about it.
Wow. Well, coming from you, it's very reassuring. We've noticed that if they ever get sick, they bounce back really quickly, because my wife's parents are very skeptical, and they're like, well, your children should be exposed on a regular basis to all of these bacterias and all the stuff that comes with milk and meat, and so that they're more resistant to it.
Right.
And I said, they were vaccinated on that stuff a long time ago. They had their dose. I don't think they needed it. You don't see people getting, vaccine injections every 3 to 4 weeks.
Exactly. Well said. I mean, that's an appropriate analogy.